The province is in charge of what? Like, how are you answerable to them?
Their laws.
What about like Medicare and agriculture? Who's in charge of those aspects for you?
They have land lease agreements with the federal government.
Okay.
And I think I'm not familiar with it, but I think they're scrutinized by the regional offices and that kind of stuff as far as the land is concerned.
Okay.
Here, we lease it out, and we use the lease money for the reserve.
Okay.
And we like it better that way because we don't have to answer for it, and I don't have a treaty, so therefore they still have to produce that treaty so I can be governed by them.
But yet you're taken to court.
Yeah, the provincial laws are such, like I say, assuming, and as long as there's the term Indian in the Supreme Court decisions filed away, and as long as nobody tells me how I became an Indian, then I remain an Indian. I will always be subject to those Supreme Court decisions, which are not fair at all. I am not an Indian, but I have been sentenced as an Indian.
What I don't understand is when you're arrested and you demand to know what jurisdiction Canada has over you, and they say this is a simple case about you're not allowed to sell tobacco without charging taxes for them. Like, can you address that? How come they don't answer your question, or what is the venue that your question will finally be answered? What is it going to take for them to prove that they have jurisdiction over you, rather than you having to prove your right to be here? Let's say the other way, they have to prove how did they win power over you. Where's the proof? And when are they going to answer that, and how, when they keep just making it be about the issue and not about the jurisdiction issue?
I think if I made $1 million a week and took everybody to court to task, we might find the answers. But as long as I'm mushika and dependent on handouts, I will never get those answers. They have me at a disadvantage simply because they have every right to look the other way. They have every right to tell me to go to the great library and find answers. When you go there, there's no answers. And as long as the judicial systems don't have a heart, we'll never win. The only way that I will win this battle is my great-grandson to be in a world of economic development that is self-supporting, our own source revenue. And we own our own lawyers that are not sworn allegiance to a foreign country. We have to have judicial systems of our own that were here, in fact, are probably asleep. And for those to be recognized as who we are. I think the minute we swear an allegiance to a country, then we've given that country every right to rule us and to dictate to us what we can and cannot do. And I think it's a well-played game. And as long as I don't have anything, well, I'll just be subject to them. In the province of Manitoba and the federal government of this country, point fingers. I have no dealings with agreements with the province. And yet they exercise their authority on us. And nobody questions them. Somebody has a fiduciary responsibility for me being in this location, and that's the federal government. I'm sitting in court defending what I'm trying to do to support my people, and the person that has the responsibility to protect me is not there. So I'm defending myself without the person that has the fiduciary responsibility. It's not there. Like, if he considers me a child, he should be right there beside me, making sure I don't go to jail or get fined or defend me. That's his responsibility. But I don't expect that. It just demonstrates how foolish fiduciary responsibility can be. They're not there when you need them, and they're there when you don't need them.
That's for sure.
I'm going to court because of abuse to my people, neglect, and it's got to do with me being part of a tribal council for 40 years. When they became useless as a political art, we tried to create a Dakota Tribal Council. We weren't allowed to do that by the tribal council that we belonged to. So we left, and they slammed the door. They kept my assets, my people's assets. I'm now in court for it. And when I win the case, the person that's supposed to be fiduciarily responsible for me was never a part of it, so he can't stick his nose in my business anymore as to the results or the outcome of that particular case. So from that day on, I have our own source of revenue for economic development. Again, it's not for me. I probably wouldn't see the end result of all of this. But the province is in fact playing the devil's advocate as far as our progress is concerned. They love it. When we were involved in business, the RCMP came and they looked at my Chandi, and I told them they were mine, never bothered. It was on reserve. And for some strange reason, there was an undercover operation going on. Had they come and asked me, can we go into your house? By all means, I would take you there. I did it before. We weren't hiding anything. Mm-hmm. There was nothing serious about what we're doing other than trying to make ends meet for my people. Mm-hmm. But their interpretation is entirely different. I was a criminal. Yeah. And it was convenient for them to say that. But they still haven't told me how much it cost for them to secretly spy on us. Like, who cares?
They secretly spied on Cindy Blackstock. So
yeah,
really, and then she won her case for
yes.
millions of dollars. But they spent hundreds of thousands of dollars following her on Facebook, on email, people following her in her day-to-day travels, trying to discredit her. And how desperate.
Yes.
And Harper held back, what was it, $2 billion of funds? Am I correct in that amount? I don't know, but he held back a vast amount of money that was supposed to go to, quote, unquote, Aboriginal people. And it was never used and put back in the budget. I mean, you guys could have used that. Just not right. And the whole thing with bringing alcohol from the get-go to be involved in any signing of treaties or deal making, alcohol was always involved. Mm-hmm. It's a big distortion of reality. And to take you guys away from your families. Imagine a family without children, a community without children for 10 months of a year. Yeah. I can't imagine a silent adult world without children laughing and playing, and to have that disjunct between the generations. It just is an attempt to wipe you out, your language, everything. So to just assimilate you, and so there won't be any more headaches for them. Nothing to deal with. But you're still here.
Yeah.
Thank goodness you're still here.
Quite a life.
Yeah.
And Cindy Blackstock, when the government always tries to justify what they do, and they're ridiculous when they say that, because the provincial crown attorney did it again when we went to court. The taxes that we get from cigarettes goes to health care.
That's what they say.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they say it with a straight face. we're producing this cancer-causing toxic substance, but the money we make off of it is going to healthcare.
And your cigarettes don't have all those extra ingredients, right? They
Well, that's the
like
thing.
arsenic.
Like that's the thing that it was never about the cigarettes. Cigarettes were just a means to draw attention. Like we could sell potato chips and lollipops, right? Nobody's gonna care. You try and sell tobacco, now the government gets involved because they make billions and billions of dollars off of that.
Right.
And that goes back to what the chief is saying. You know, right across that road over there, there's a road there. And on the other side is provincial boundary. Up here, there's a creek that flows through. And they cleared it out. And in the wintertime, they clear the snow. Right? So, in the springtime, the province clears the snow all the way up to that road. Because that's provincial. And then they leave all this covered with snow all the way down to the river. So why are you clearing that over there? You know, it's for drainage, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then you don't clear this part here. And the chief has pictures of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I mean by jurisdiction. When they want to impose taxes,
Mm-hmm.
they come on here and they say they have jurisdiction. But when it comes to providing funding for housing or you know, basic things.
Wipe their hands.
Yeah.
with it.
And this is like the chief has been doing this for most of his life, and nobody cares.
Well, people care. I don't think they're aware of the grand picture of it. We just hear subtleties. We hear brokenness. We hear.
No, hang on.
Yeah.
People don't care.
You think?
Yeah. Because if people cared, we wouldn't be living like this.
But we're fed all kinds of lies. That you have money and you're not responsible. We're fed those lies. They're definite lies. I mean, just to make it look like you can't take care of your own thing, your own bookkeeping, your own people. They make it look like it's your fault. It's projected in the media. It's projected by what stories they choose to cover or not cover. I mean, the first thing they did at Wounded Knee in '73 to end it, they got the media out of there. So there was no one to project the true story of what the natives were trying to have an investigation done. It wasn't to be rebellious just for the sake of being rebellious. It was to provide an investigation and into the corruption in the system. So I mean, the media is key. I mean, we're fed lies consistently throughout the decades.
And they'll be fed lies next year, and that's why nobody cares. Nobody cares.
With social media, people are becoming more aware. Like me, as a Montreal person, non-native, I wanted to hear things from your perspective, so I was looking, and that's how I met you. I wanted to hear from the real deal, not from what was told to me. So, and those things are spreading. The guy who made the movie, The Pass System, he got his documents. He went to the in Ottawa. There's a museum of the artifacts found. He said there were only 2 actual passes, like signed passes, in the collection there. And he got all his other samples of those signed passes, like that allowed you to leave your land. He got it all from Facebook and Twitter. People shared. So people are sharing, like you said, the web, the spider, the web. We're all connecting now, and it's time for the real information to come out. This is so important. We hear the real truth and meet the real people, and not hear it second and third hand in a distorted form. So thank you, for being patient with us and saying your story again and again, because it's gonna come out.
One good thing about having absolutely nothing other than what you have is patience. If I don't have it, I don't miss it. I'd love to have it, and I would do anything to have it, other than serious crime. I will exercise my right as a human being to go work for it, to make it materialize if I'm recognized as a capable human being, but I'm not. And all we have are emotions, and one of them is patience. That's what we live with.
You have patience. I have frustration.
I came through the frustrating stage, and we managed to get some things done in Dakota Plains out of the ordinary with the help of some very concerned people and God. We have a new school that's probably about 10 years old. And we have a drainage system that's trying to drain Dakota Plains. And it's been draining since they installed it. We have fairly good roads. All the mud is gone. That was a time when being young, brash,